All right, everybody, here we are. We are live Friday night for a rare, different episode of Chewing the Fat. Usually, I'm sitting down, I'm doing one-on-ones, and we're discussing and we're chewing the fat about people's careers and lives and the business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I do want to sit down with my guest tonight and do that because we have so much to discuss, not even in the world of professional wrestling, but a whole world of Evil Knievel
Oh,
that I've been dying to talk for years about with you. But first off, let's welcome to tonight's show the cooker himself, Mr. Bob Cook. What's going on, Bob?
not much. I appreciate you having me on the show. Should have happened a long time ago. Well, let's not complain.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You know what? And we were talking. I guess it was one of the last WWE PLEs. You were in the chat and chiming in. And I want you to come and hang out on us like when we do these recaps of the WWE PLEs, because the thing I love about Bob is he don't pull no punches. He just straight shoots from the hip, from the heart, from the mouth, and tells it how it is, the way it should be.
I don't like the fact that I look bald on this. The lighting, makeup.
Right? Yeah, we don't get that luxury now. Did you get that luxury in WCW?
Makeup? No.
I
don't think it would help me anyways.
I want to go there and discuss so much, but tonight's episode is about the debut happened the other day of the Netflix 6-part documentary about Vince McMahon titled Mr. McMahon. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to literally watch episode at a time and do a breakdown of each episode. And I've only watched the first one because I didn't want to get all confused and clouded, and et cetera, et cetera. So I reached out to Bob the other day and said, hey, because he had watched, and I said, you want to be the guest on the first episode and sit down and break this down with me? He was like, absolutely. So, first off, the one thing I'm going to say, I wasn't expecting it off the bat, but I'm already hearing about the whole people have watched all 6 episodes and people are saying it's not that bad. I was expecting it to be like what we saw in the first episode, the build up that mountain, and then they were going to destroy it. But it sounds like they really don't.
I think, I watched all 6. I will say that. And there's probably, 20 minutes of real negativity?
So
out of all of them?
Out of all 6 episodes, that's all you really felt?
Pretty much. The last episode, there's a little bit more, towards the end.
Right.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
SP reboots?
You're back.
Damn it. This happened last time I did this StreamYard stuff.
Let's blame it on StreamYard.
And we got really good internet here. Full bars or whatever the heck that is.
So with the whole thing, you felt like there was only about 20 minutes of negativity? Like, I'm kind of shocked.
Maybe a half hour.
Wow.
But I also don't, I kind of drown that stuff out. I watch the negativity and I'm like, okay, now let's get to the good stuff.
All right, well, let's get to the stuff of the first episode. The one thing I want to say, like, instantly, I feel like, and I noticed early on at the very beginning of the episode, like when they show Vince walking in, like Vince seems very like awkward body wise, and like he had a lot of bad plastic surgery or something.
Well, he's also almost 80 years old. Spent like the last 70 of those lifting heavy weights.
Yeah, he was built like a brick shithouse for many years.
I bet you if he took his jacket off, though, he'd still be in good shape. It's just he's getting old.
Yeah.
I know what that's like.
Did you ever have any experiences with Vince? Let me ask you that before we really get into things.
Just handshakes and hello, and a couple times he'd thank you for coming, whatever. But that's it.
You did some work for Vince?
Yeah, 95. And he was he was always cool to you, you know, and he didn't like hide in the office. He'd walk around, he'd goof around with the people.
Interesting. Okay. So, all right. So, did you feel like I felt he was almost kind of nervous doing this?
Well, he said he wasn't very comfortable talking about himself, so it could have a lot to do with it.
Do you find that kind of hard to believe? A guy that like had no problem like going out there and dropping his pants and having people kiss his ass in public and
Not
give him
really.
the
A lot of people are
spotlight.
private, like to keep that part of their lives private.
I guess. I guess when it's gonna like dive into the real truth of your life. Like I honestly like I never like really sat down and dove into the whole world of Vince McMahon. Like all the stuff you casually have heard over the years is kind of like what I've heard. And I didn't realize like his upbringing where he was, um, I guess his parents were separated or whatever. They didn't really say, I don't think. But he was up until 12 years old. He really didn't know his father. I was kind of shocked by that.
Yeah, and he didn't have a lot of money either. Came from kind of poverty.
Yeah, yeah, it was very,
Did it again.
yeah. It seemed like it was very um, bad off living with his mother until he went to live with his with Vince Senior. Um, but it also seemed like naturally like he was trying to maybe get that what's that word I'm looking for? Um, get the approval of his father that he seemed like he never really got until at one point.
Well, if you watch well, his father was his stepfather growing up. He was
Wait,
abusive too.
yes, 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 yes.
I don't think he didn't see his real father for a while.
Right. So yeah, it was just weird. It was just I didn't realize all that, so it was kind of shocking and kind of almost hard to believe too. A guy who had such an upbringing like that to turn around and do what he did early on when he was given the chance to buy his father's company. I mean, he had a lot of confidence and a lot of courage and balls to do what he set out to do. I mean, I was it's kind of shocking.
Well, he clearly wasn't one of those people that played the "woe is me" card. You know, a lot of people would say, "Well, I was this as a kid. I was abused. I was that." At least publicly, he didn't, and he went off
Right.
to do something no one else ever did, from the wrestling standpoint.
Right. Well, even like again, like I never knew any of that stuff. So it's not like it's like he was something he was outspoken about. Like, I was um I grew up poor and poverty stricken and I was dealt a bad hand early on and then he changed his life.
Well, he probably knew that a lot of the stuff that they asked in the documentary would come up. So he figured if he pulled the sympathy card at the beginning, like, "Hey, I was abused as a child, so I kind of get a little bit of a slack when it comes to the things I did later in life, woe is me."
Right. Yeah, and so another thing that I was kind of shocked with I didn't realize too he knew his wife, Linda, since the time he was 16 years old and she was 13.
Yeah, well, see, there are things in the documentary that people didn't know. There's everybody saying how, well, I didn't learn nothing new. Well, that's because you didn't want to learn nothing new, or you think you knew everything, which, let's face it, if a Mark's saying it, well, they're just reading another meme and thinking that's what happened. Oh, okay.
I that was the biggest thing I've seen. I've seen probably 85% of the people since Wednesday have said, I watched all 6 episodes and they turn around and said, I didn't learn nothing new.
Yeah, and they say, "Oh, it's a waste of time." Well, I actually liked the whole thing. I like the historical facts. I like the pictures. I like the archival footage.
I love. I mean, honestly, watching just the first episode so far and watching the early story events, the early upbringing to the gutsy side and the chances he took early on, it's inspirational. It really is.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the ones who take the biggest chances that usually have the greatest success. Evil Knievel himself said
Mm,
the same thing.
mm. You were waiting to pull out that line, weren't you?
Well, yeah, trying to think what he said offhand. I can't think all of a sudden.
But
When there's little risk, here's what he said: when there's little risk, there's little reward. So, and also for you kids out there, never risk your life foolishly, unless there's a big pot of gold at the end. And that goes for you idiots in wrestling doing all those stupid moves.
So he and this was another thing I learned. Like again, I didn't realize that. Okay, first off, I actually felt like when Senior got out, I thought he kind of just, this is my son, and he gave him the business. I didn't realize Vince actually had to buy it from his father, and if he reneged on one of those payments, he would have lost
like $1 million or something.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna have to switch rooms. Follow me through the house.
I'm gonna follow you through.
Oh.
So I mean that was something surprising. I didn't realize that either. I kind of felt like it was just kind of given to him. So again, inspirational things from Vince McMahon.
Yeah, but there's always going to be the people that find the negative in everything.
Yeah. And also too, it's like if you think about it, like so Gorilla Monsoon was actually the person that Senior wanted to take over the company and buy the company. It's like if Gorilla would have bought the company, we never would have had probably the wrestling business we have today.
No, probably not, because he probably would have stayed true to the formula of the territories and staying out of the other people's business. But that's probably also why he had a job all those years too.
Yeah. Now they didn't really go. They said a little bit that Gorilla was a little upset that Vince bought it, and what Vince decided to do, as it seemed like everybody was.
Darn it!
So,
but
go ahead.
Monsoon probably would have just ruined it. How many wrestlers have ran a territory into the ground?
Yeah.
Bob Backlund would still be champion if Monsoon was running it.
Now, how about where Vince said he didn't like the term pro wrestling?
Well, everybody's got their hang-ups, I guess.
Don't you find that interesting, though? Because that's what the business was. It was pro wrestling, but Vince never liked the term, didn't like to look at it that way. To him, it was truly sports entertainment.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it was still wrestling. Just because he says it wasn't in his mind doesn't mean it wasn't. I mean, if he said the sky was green, there's people going to go, "Oh, Vince said it was green? Well, hell, I always thought it was blue." No, it's still blue. Vince just thinks it's green.
Yeah. Now, how about the whole? Again, something else I learned. I didn't realize when Vince took over the company, he really wanted Dusty Rhodes as that initial champion, that Hulk Hogan role. I didn't realize he really wanted it to be Dusty.
Yeah, I didn't either until I saw the documentary. Something else we didn't know, but it worked out pretty well with the Hulkster.
Yeah.
And no offense to Dusty, at the time the Hulk went in there, he was like in his 20s. Dusty was on the north side of his career at that point in '84. Hulk was like 20, maybe 29, something like that.
it's again interesting to think because, and as much as I love Dusty, and I'm a bigger Dusty fan way over Hogan.
What? Oh.
I just don't think again. I don't think the business would have became what it would have with Dusty as it did with Hogan.
No, I don't think so either. Especially, Dusty had a different attitude too. He would probably want to get more involved and run things more because that was it. He was the creative guy, whereas Hogan was more. Well, you want me to do that? Okay, brother, let's do it.
Right. But didn't Hogan become more of that guy, like, or he wanted creative control, I guess, over his own stuff?
I mean, that's what you hear, but who really knows? But I just think that Hulk was more of a I wouldn't say yes man, but more open to do what he's told, as opposed to Dusty, who would want to be part of that creative process. Right. And then that has its own problems,
Yeah, it's a whole nother can of worms. How about those old classic? What was it that they used to do early on? It was like the talk show setup.
TNT.
Yeah, the TNT show.
Yeah, those are great.
It's funny, like seeing those clips that they showed. I was like, in my head, I was laughing. I'm like, this stuff was so crazy and off the wall.
Yeah, watch the episodes with Terry Funk or Dr. D. David Shaw. They're hilarious.
That's so. Now, I wonder. I don't even know. Like, I have Peacock. Are they on Peacock? Those old shows?
Yeah, I don't know if all of them are, but several years are. I think it only lasted maybe 3, 4. I watched the wedding episode, the wedding of Paul the Butcher Vachon. Oh my God, it's one of the funniest things, especially the reception with Jesse Ventura and Dr. D. Oh, it's great.
I gotta write that down.
A young Luna Vachon before she was Luna Vachon. Hilarious.
Wasn't there what was the wedding that didn't they do like a hillbilly Jim wedding on there too or something?
Yeah, it was Uncle Elmer against somebody, and that was on Saturday Night's Main Event.
Saturday Night's Main Event, yeah, right.
Not anywhere near as entertaining as the Paul the Butcher Vachon.
I gotta look that up. Now again, I didn't know Vince early on appeared on Letterman doing that.
Yeah, I remember watching that back when it happened.
Really? That's funny, and he fit right into that. Like that's like a guy who really had no formal training. It seems like he was kind of just thrown to the wolves. And he showed they showed the footage. I mean, he was horrible those early ones. He really learned. That's where you got to respect Vince. Like, as much as I dislike the guy, I do respect him for what he did.
You just like him? What did he do to you?
Well, I did. I just dislike.
You just like the stories of the debauchery and perversions? Those could be fun too if they're told correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a few of those stories. Want to hear?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just kidding. Well, there's this one incident in a hotel in New Orleans. They call it the Renata incident. And never mind. It's a joke, people. Calm down.
Now,
that's your limitations. That's your limitations.
Yeah, right. Okay. Again, another thing was, when Vince came up with the whole WrestleMania thing, who knew that basically they remortgaged their house and all to pull that off to make that happen? They took a big chance.
Right. If that would have failed, who knows what would have happened?
Right. And I didn't, again, realizing, and this isn't even really about the whole Vince thing. This could even go back to the early 70s with Evel Knievel with the closed circuit TV. I didn't realize that's how it was. I remember seeing it advertised, come watch closed circuit TV, but I didn't realize basically you're watching a TV screen in an arena.
Did you know that Vince McMahon helped promote that jump?
The Snake River Canyon jump?
Yep.
Really?
Originally, Vince's father sent him to do, help Evel promote that jump to get him away from the wrestling business, and it didn't work out so well. But yeah, you go back and watch. I got pictures of it, but Vince is in the room with Evil in some of the press conferences he did back then. What he did is he promoted the Northeast arenas like Madison Square Garden, the Spectrum, and the Boston, all the big arenas that the WWE had. They promoted the canyon jump, and Vince was the one who did it.
When you met Evil, did you ever discuss any of that with him?
Oh yeah, I talked, like, first day I met him, I talked about that. Actually, I didn't I knew about it before that, but I mentioned to him something about being a wrestler, and he goes, "Oh, Vince McMahon helped me promote the canyon jump." And yeah, I know that. And Evil wasn't a wrestling fan, but he respected Vince a lot for his business sense.
Right. I mean, look, as a promoter, Vince is probably one of the best, and as a self-promoter, Evil was one of the best. So I mean, that's
definitely.
kind of a great match right there.
Yeah. I mean, in the 70s, he was one of the first guys to really market himself a real human being, not a TV show like Batman or the $6 Million Man. He was a live, breathing, superhero, and he marketed himself toys and just about every imaginable merchandising product.
Right.
Very few people did that in that era.
Well, even early on, like the early there wasn't a lot of merchandise of WWF stuff at the time until probably the mid 80s. Because I remember being a kid early 80s and going to shows at the Spectrum, and there was never merchandise. It was just kind of like your program.
Yeah, and I remember there was a magazine that came out, I think it was in 83, called Victory Magazine, and it was the WWE's original version of, not the original, they had one in the 70s too, and they had t-shirts, whatever, damn it. They had duffel bags and t-shirts for sale, but that was it. But the Hulk, when he got popular, that's what started the whole merchandising craze, action figures and all that.
I mean, honestly, though, flipping over to WCW for a second, but even it was like they were like very late to the party on the whole merchandise thing. I always wondered why.
It was like 90, maybe 1990 when they first got their action figure deal with the Galoob company.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it just has to do with a company being interested, thinking, well, do you think people will buy this crap? And then they saw the WWE was doing. AWA was one of the really first ones with that Remco. That's what, which were pretty popular, I think, for the most part. Especially now, they're worth a lot of money if you get them in the package.
Yeah.
But it was WWE. I mean, if a company's doing well and another company sees how well they're doing, they go, well, geez, let's see if we can. I mean, darn it, I'm gonna smash this phone. The WCW is on national TV. Let's say WWF being successful. Let's see what we can do with WCW.
Right. Now, how about the whole 2020? That whole I remember watching that as a kid. Did you watch that back when it happened?
Definitely. Yeah, I was into wrestling at that time, and my dad hated wrestling, not because of it's all fake, but he hated, like, when I was first started training with the great Malenko, I'd come home all beat up and tired, and bruised, and he just didn't understand why someone would want to do that to their body. But he hated that part of it. And I remember showing him that footage when Dr. D slapped the crap out of John Stoss, and my dad just laughed and said, the little bastard deserved
it. Now, what year did you start training?
81.
Really? Okay.
Which means I'm really old. And for all of you who aren't old, let Bob Cook, the cooker, give you some advice. It sucks.
Okay.
Your time will come if you're lucky or unlucky.
Interesting.
How you look at it?
Now, all right. So let me ask you this: what the 81? What the hell? How did you get into the business at 81?
I got lucky. I had moved to Tampa with a friend of mine. I know we're talking about Vince McMahon, the evil emperor, but I went to Tampa with a friend of mine after I graduated from high school with the intention of being a pro wrestler, with no idea how to do it. other than the fact that I knew that they taped the Championship Wrestling from Florida television show at the Sportatorium in Tampa for a long time, decades. And I talked to a guy named Gordon Nelson, who was an old-time wrestler, after a show at the Sportatorium. I said, "Hey, man, how do you get into wrestling?" And he said, "Well, you got to come in and try out, but you got to be in really good shape." And at that time, it meant that you're not going to leave the building without something broke, probably. They were going to stretch you and try to discourage you.
Right.
Unfortunately, I never went back, and I didn't know that at the time because I didn't go back to do that. I just happened to be coming out of the Fort Homer Hesterly Armory one summer evening in '81, and there was a flyer on my car that said, "Become a pro wrestler, travel the world, make big money." It was for the Great Malenko Wrestling Academy. And I went to the school the next day. I met a guy named Carl von Stroheim, who was a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, with his brother Kurt von Stroheim. Whoops. Not real brothers, I'm sure. It was shocking. But then I started training the next week with Malenko, and that was it. I just got lucky.
Wow.
Pure luck. If I wasn't because I didn't go to the Armory every week. So if I wasn't there that day, I don't know if they plastered the cars with flyers. I still have the flyer, by the way.
Do you really?
Yes. It's a little worse for wear, but then again, so am I.
So when the 2020 thing happened, you were already in the business. What were your feelings on what was it? Was it Eddie? Was it Eddie Mansfield? Was that the
Eddie
guy?
Mansfield? Look, when that happened, I was like, man, I can't believe he's doing that. But I became friends with Eddie in 1990. I worked for his company in Orlando called IWF Wrestling, International Wrestling Federation, live from Orlando studios. And I'm still friends with Eddie today. We text back and forth all the time. So I have nothing bad to say about Eddie. He's a great guy. He did, what he felt he needed to do for whatever his reasons were. And he's given them out for years what the reasons were. And it was to help the boys get reunions or whatever. And that's his business, not mine. Right. But I got nothing bad to say about Eddie. He's always been good to me. So anybody who doesn't like Eddie, I got one word for you, but it starts like this.
So when you were getting into the business or through your years in the business, was it ever your goal to work for Vince?
Well, sure. Everybody wants to work for, right? And that's another one I just kind of got lucky, Oh, there it goes again. Oh, I'm going to strangle it with these headphones. A friend of mine named Jimmy Backlund, who was Jimmy Del Rey in the WWE with Tom Pritchard as the heavenly bodies, he just called me one day and he said, "Hey, you want to work for WWF?" Because he was getting TV guys. And I was like, "Yeah, sure." That was it. I know Jimmy since he started, like in '81 as well. And now he's dead. Rest in peace.
Didn't he pass away?
Yeah, he's gone. Maybe, I don't know how many years ago, several years ago. He had a heart attack. But he was a good guy. He was great.
He was in ECW for a minute, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think he was and he was in WCW. I think it was like Jimmy. I can't think what it was.
Yeah,
Jimmy Graffiti or something crazy like that.
Huh.
But he was a good guy. Crazy, but that's why you're in wrestling. People. Oh, there it goes. I apologize.
That's all right. As most promoters have said, to get into this business, you got to be fucking crazy.
To get in it, you got to be crazy. To stay in it, you got to be absolutely
nuts. So, all right. So the first episode was, laying the groundwork of Vince in the early days and the early career. I feel watching that first episode, like Vince McMahon at that point is an inspirational figure.
Yeah, most definitely. You should be in it. I mean, anybody who watched that should just think that I can accomplish anything if I just have the drive to do it. Now, obviously, you got to figure out a way to do it, but
yeah, exactly.
Starts with a passion.
Yeah.
And again, he wasn't successful at everything he did. I mean, especially with the rest of it, you throw stuff at the wall, you see what sticks. People always criticize, like, well, they should have done this, they should have done that. Yeah, well, what? I shouldn't have drank all that Mountain Dew I have for the last 30 years. I wouldn't be so freaking fat. Still be old, but not as fat. So I should have, could have, would have, but you try things, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. You just keep plugging along.
That's it.
What, is this all of a sudden a porno movie? Wait a minute, Bob. You went the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing too about Vince. Like, people, you can look at that if you really don't know. You can say, "Oh my God, he was like this huge success." But I'll relate him to Gene Simmons of Kiss. Like, Gene was super successful with Kiss, and he tried to do many different things that were usually not successful. And Vince did many successful things with WWE, but not everything with WWE was successful. And his outside things he tried to do, the bodybuilding federation, the football league, etc., were not successful either.
You know, but sometimes it's like you just stick with.
Right.
Anyway, he tried to incorporate the wrestling aspect with those other things, right? He tried to do the XFL, and he brought in the wrestling sort of themes, and the bodybuilding, tried to bring in the wrestling flash, and it didn't work. You're trying to change people's ideas of what something is. If bodybuilding is bodybuilding, they don't want to have it. It's not going to be. They don't want. You know what I mean? They don't want that. They want it as it is. They don't want to change.
Right.
I don't watch football. Oh,
Come
man.
on, how could you not watch football, Bob?
Well, there's a thing called a brain, first of all, and then there's eyes, and you direct those eyes towards anything but football. Boom, end of story. And there's like thousands of channels and outlets for television and program. I got hundreds of DVDs and Blu-rays. That's how you don't watch football. But most people watch football. I see people on Facebook all the time. Well, the Dallas Cowboys suck this year. I'm out. Well, geez, the season just started. Oh, I'm going on a rant, and it keeps refreshing. Got to be the Russians. But if you love something, watch it. Who cares if your team don't win?
There you go.
Coward.
I'm gonna run through some comments. Johnny Martello. You know what WCW really stood for is we can't wrestle. But then he says, but Cooker, you could work, bro. And Bob left.
Oh, I was just getting ready to say Johnny don't know what he's talking, or not Johnny. What's his name?
Yeah, Johnny.
Oh,
it's the Italian way of doing Johnny.
Anyway, I was going to say you don't know what he's talking about, but he threw it in on the end. Thank you, sir. There was a couple people in WCW didn't know how to wrestle, like that one guy. What's his name? Bill Kazmaier, the big dumb weightlifter.
Yeah.
What an arrogant jerk.
I see. I can't wait to sit down and do a Chewin' the Fat with you and go through all that. Mitzi, what's up? Mitzi used to work. She was out of the Maryland area and worked for what was it, MCW, Maryland Championship Wrestling, Mitzi Million.
I recognize that name.
I watched up to the third episode and never knew that about Wendy Richter, and I don't know what she's talking about. But did you know about Wendy?
She's talking about the screw job where the Fabulous Moolah was under the mask.
Oh,
I apologize. Blame Fred for that because it's his internet. But it's about the Spider Lady, Miss Fabulous Moolah, and where Wendy claims she didn't know it was Moolah. Well, I don't believe that for a second. Okay. If you wrestle the same person a lot of times, just because they put a mask on, you know who they are. But that's a whole other story. But it's about that, the screw job. They like to call it the original screw job, but I'm sure it was done before that.
I'm sure. What are your thoughts of Hunter wanting Netflix to no-show the documentary?
Well, I know nothing about that. I mean, obviously it didn't matter. It's on there. And yesterday it was listed as number 2 rated TV show of the week. Today it's number 3. So the interest is waning. Within less than a month, it'll be off the 10 spot, and it'll be forgotten, and no one will care anymore. Back to wrestling. Back to positivity.
That's crazy. So it's already dropping down.
Oh, man. I apologize again.
It's all good. So it's already dropping down. It didn't even hit number 1.
Nope. At least as of when I looked earlier.
Wow.
Well, a lot of people are like, they're reading those Facebook comments, the ones that can't think for themselves, or the ones that see a meme and believe that that's fact. They watch people say, oh, I didn't learn nothing I didn't already know. Well, here's a reality check to all you people with that mentality. If you have some knowledge.
Damn.
Very rarely are you going to learn something new. I have seen every Evel Knievel documentary ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And I very rarely go, oh, geez, I didn't know that. But I enjoy the documentary for what it is.
You know what? I've seen them all too. And usually I end up walking away from them very happy because I got to relive my youth.
Well,
And,
yeah.
and I mean, again, Evil, another inspirational person slash character, because he was a character. Mitzi, again, I feel like it's better to let the sun through and be real, but he's probably leaving a lot out. I like it so far.
Well, I mean, again, he doesn't like to. Well, he said he doesn't want to talk about himself or didn't like talking about himself.
Right.
You're never going to expose everything, and you're going to lie a lot along the way to put you in a better light.
Now, I mean, that was something too. Like Vince came out Monday and put a press release out via Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and to try to like stick up for himself, but it seems like it really, like you said, there was maybe 20 minutes of bad stuff out of 6 hours.
I mean, it may have been more than that. I didn't like, okay, I didn't time it, but I just believe the focus was way off of it. Well, the focus wasn't on the negative. It obviously was included because it's part of the story, but.
Right. All right.
Now,
Jeremy
personally, I think it was a stupid idea for Netflix to even air it, but that's just me.
Okay, well, how about that? Like, being the fact that they're bringing WWE on for Raw, and are they going to like move the whole network onto Netflix? I'm not clear on that.
That's what I heard after the Peacock deal runs out in 2026. Okay. That's the scary part. Like, if you want to go watch something in the best quality, the network's just the place to do it. So it would really suck if they didn't bring it over once the Peacock deal ends and it just disappears. It's right. Like instant access to thousands of hours of wrestling history.
Yeah.
Even my stuff is on there from WCW and WWE. Not that anybody wants to see that, but I'm just saying.
I mean, it is. That's the thing. Like, you have a whole body of wrestling history thanks to that network, and it would just suck to see any of it just disappear.
No, I think I saw Nick Khan say once that it was just before the network deal, so I don't know the whole, inside scoop. But I remember him saying something like if they couldn't get the network to a different home, they would just bring it back in home. So then they would offer it like they did originally, you know what I mean, or in house as it was.
I wonder why they. I mean, I guess the bottom line came to money. That they probably just got paid so much money that why not let Peacock or futurely Netflix host it?
Yeah, I mean Netflix was like a $5 billion deal. That's a billion with a B.
Yeah. That's 5 billion reasons to do it.
Yeah. Now none of the boys will see that trickle down, I'm sure. But how the rest of the business is.
Well, that's a funny thing, because people like yourself, I have a few matches on there. Where shouldn't people that are on there and stuff that gets streamed, kind of like your Spotify's, etc., shouldn't people get trickled down money somehow, some way? Those couple pennies, a stream.
It'd be great in theory because who doesn't want extra money for doing nothing? But the wrestling business is unlike any other business in the world. You can't all of a sudden magically wish it was something that it's not. When Vince, who bought all that footage? Wasn't you? Wasn't me? Didn't even chip in a dime to buy it. Vince bought it for millions of dollars from Mike Graham, from Texas, from Memphis. All the footage that he owns. He should be allowed to do whatever he wants with it. Yeah. You signed a release. I always did anyways for the big times. Like
I did not.
Well, okay.
I did not.
Then Paul Heyman owes you money. No, but in WCW, you'd have to sign a release that gave them permission to use your likeness, use the videos on whatever they wanted. And, 40 or 35 years ago, you're doing that stuff. You're not thinking, well, geez, I bet they'll invent something called DVDs, and I bet they'll invent something called the internet, and I'll bet someone will be smart enough to put all of our old footage on there and make money off it, so we should get a cut. Nobody's seen that coming.
Yeah.
And when Bill Watts was selling DVDs of Mid-South Wrestling, nobody was going, oh, I should get a cut of that. Well, now that Vince has it and he's the man with all the money, everybody wants something at the end of the rainbow. And again, in a perfect world, it would be great. But then in a perfect world, I'd be 26 years old and have 3 women fighting over me right now. But none of those are happening.
Here's a funny story for you. A friend of mine, I guess this is in like 97, 97, 98. The very first Eddie Gilbert Memorial show that Dennis Carluzzo ran in Jersey. I used to do a lot of stuff with Dennis, and one of my best friends who comes on here time to time, Frank Cody, Dennis asked him to pick up Bill Watts from the Baltimore airport to bring him up for the show in Jersey. And at the time, it was a Friday night. I was delivering pizzas in this local pizza shop. Frank hijacked Bill Watts and didn't tell him. He's like, "Oh yeah, we're going to go to Jersey. We're going to go to Jersey," and he brought him over into Philly to my pizza shop. so, so I could meet him because I was a huge Bill Watts mark. And all
I
of a
like Bill
sudden,
Watts.
oh yeah, and
He was cool to me.
Bill Watts came walking through that door. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like fucking wow.
He's the one who started the whole Bob Cook has the best punch in wrestling thing. He's the one who did that. So
really,
I got nothing bad to say about Bill Watts or Eric Watts for that matter.
Did you ever work Eric?
Oh yeah, a lot of times, yeah. And he always puts me over on podcasts and interviews he does because Bill asked me to teach him how to throw punches.
Wow.
Now I'm a horrible teacher, so hey, it's not Eric's fault, it's mine.
I felt bad for Eric. I felt like he had, like, for some reason, just like so much pressure on him.
Oh yeah, but he handled it really well at the time. He never had an ego, and he was really cool, easy to work with. I got nothing bad to say about him, but you got the fans that'll sit there and go, "Well, he didn't deserve that." And what are you fans know? If you knew anything, you wouldn't be fans.
Yeah.
Hammer. It's like people will rag on Van Hammer. I mean, the guy got an opportunity. What's he supposed to do? Go, "Oh, you're going to offer me this much money? Oh, I don't want that. That'd be crazy. Why would I want that money?"
Yeah.
Guy's a great guy. Leave him alone.
I just saw a picture of him, literally.
Yeah, with Nick Foley.
That's who it was. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still in great shape. Mark
he looked good.
He lives in Florida.
Look good. Hey,
I think he's like my age.
I was just going to say, it's good to see he's still alive. I mean, so many people we lost. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, shit, that's awesome.
Yeah, Mark's always been cool to me. I stayed at his apartment in Atlanta back years ago a couple times, and just a great guy. I knew him before he got into business, though, because like Mark Merrill, I helped Mark Merrill get into business. He used to train at a gym that me and some of the other guys at the time when we were doing TV, we used to train there. And he came over, the owner of the gym knew who we were because we got to work out for free. Hey, free is good. And Mark came over and asked us, how he got into business. Of course, we went, "Hey, there's this guy. He's awesome. Awesome guy. Like Trump would say, he's a great guy. One of the greatest guys. He's a great guy. He's a really great guy. He's a great guy. Great Malenko.
It's a beautiful guy.
We sent him, he's a beautiful guy. He's a beautiful, beautiful guy. Beautiful guy. And we sent him to the Great Malenko. And then I got Mark booked in WCW, and the rest is history.
Mark's actually going to be, I'm doing a signing this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and Mark's going to be there.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a long time, but he was always cool.
Never met him. I'm going to have to try to meet him.
Now he's a motivational speaker.
Is he? Good.
Wish he'd speak to me because I could use some motivation.
I'm going to say that to him. I'm going to say I was talking to Bob Cook last night.
We had a little falling out years ago, but we made up.
Good. How about
the whole Kristen Wall thing?
How about Bagwell? Bagwell will be here this weekend. It's funny. Like I met Marcus a year ago, and I've heard the stories over the years about Mark, and I was like, oh man, I've never heard nothing good about Bagwell. I'm like, this dude, he's gonna be a dick. I was like so pissed, and I come walking into the comic show, and his table's right next to mine. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, this is gonna be a fucking shit show.
But he's a good guy.
He was a great fucking guy.
Yep.
Great. I can't say enough good things about him. We had an amazing conversation throughout the day, and he like really changed and turned himself around. Just a very nice, wonderful, respectable person.
Yeah, I worked with him a bunch of times, and I actually had his tryout match, even though he'll dispute that. But when I was told to work with him the first time, it was a dark match at center stage, and I was told it was his tryout match. And we had a really good match, and he got his job. Not because of me, I'm just saying. And he's always cool to me. I got nothing bad to say about Marcus. I'm glad to see that he's come around and got his life together. He's got a beautiful girlfriend or wife, whatever she is, and he's doing really well.
Let's see,
he was one of the guys, like between him and Steamboat, they sold my punch better than anybody.
What was it like working with Steamboat?
Oh, stiff. Oh my God. He's so stiff.
Come on.
I'm just kidding. No, Steamboat was like poetry in motion, like Dean Malenko and Brad Armstrong and Bobby Eaton, the best.
Wow. Worked with like that list of names right there. We could just sit and fucking talk an hour about.
What did this guy say down here?
Yeah, that's
I had heard they called Big Bobby. What?
Big Bobby.
Oh, look, he's trying to be funny. Hey, why don't you buy a horse to go live in the mountains and stop bothering us? Lord, kid. Nobody ever called me the cook. You know who gave me the name Cooker?
The Funker.
Dad, you know your history.
How about that? Jimmy Del Rey was ECW 95 to 96.
Okay.
Raw is moving in 25, and everything else is moving in 27.
Yeah, 26. Well, like I said, the end of 26, whatever. Peacock is bye-bye.
That's interesting. So they're not going to go back to like the pay-per-view format, would they?
Although I think everything is going to Netflix on the rest of the world. Like the PLEs will be on Peacock in America. You go to USA, it's still going to be in America, but the rest of the world gets the PLEs on Netflix, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong because I'm not the smartest guy in the world.
So what do you think of, now this whole situation has come down with Vince having to walk away, etc., and Hunter has taken over. How do you feel the job Hunter has done?
Well, I think he's done a great job for the most part. I'm sure. I know morale has to be a lot better. They get to call it pro wrestling now. And in case no one knows, my glasses are broke. I told you that at the beginning before we were on the air. So if anybody's looking at them and going, look at those glasses, what's wrong with you? This side's broke. That's right, they're broke. But I think Hunter's doing a great job. He's doing a great job for the most part. I don't like everything he does, but
sure,
that's the way it always is, right? You don't like everything anybody does.
What about the whole PLE format where it's always just 5 matches? Are you good with that?
I like that. Gives the guys more time. The matches have more time to build rather than just having 10, 5, 8-minute matches. You got guys that are going 20, 15, 20, 30 minutes. I think it's like my kid quit wrestling. He was a wrestler for a little while, but he got tired of driving, 100 miles to go to a show, and they go, you got 5 minutes. You got 5. You're not going to learn nothing in 5 minutes. And if you love the business, you have a passion for it. You do it because it's fun. What kind of fun are you going to have in 5 minutes?
I didn't know you had a kid.
Well, he don't know it either. I haven't told him yet. Oh, no, but yeah, I got a grandkid too.
Oh,
but I haven't seen him in a long time because I don't live in Florida anymore. But I'm moving back, so
you're leaving Tennessee?
Yep.
That was quick.
Yeah, well, that's what life is. It's filled with bumps and bruises, and sometimes you got to get on the down the road.
We got to meet up before you leave.
Well, it better be soon because it's going to be soon. I actually planned on leaving. I actually originally had planned to be gone, arrive today in Florida, the 27th. But because of things just didn't work out, and of course that big hurricane, or I like to call them hurricane, because she did screwed everybody. But whoops, that's a little bit overboard, wasn't it?
No, not at all.
You got to admit it was funny though. Come on.
It was good. It was. So when are you planning on leaving now?
Maybe in a couple of weeks. I don't know. Okay. We're figuring it out.
Okay.
Because I'm not going alone, but.
So now with the PLEs though, I love it, but on the flip side, as the talent, I feel kind of bad because again, you only get those 5 matches to and it's usually for the most part they try to interchange one or two of the talent with the matches, but it's kind of the same ones over and over.
I don't feel bad for them because nowadays everybody's on a guaranteed contract, and they all get thrown a bone eventually. In the old days, if you're working every night, every day, every week, every show, people get tired of that too. And at the same time, so does your body. Like you hear next year that they're cutting down to where they're going to be doing like 200 shows a year. The talent's got to love that, right? More time at home, more time to get divorced, more time. I mean, wait, did I say that? More time to live and breathe and enjoy you go, hey, I just bought a brand new Corvette, but I won't see it till Tuesday of next year because I'm on the road. No, you'll get to enjoy it more,
Yeah.
You'll get to wrap it around a tree a lot quicker. That's what I'm trying to say.
Do you feel though that the business it's just so different now? Like you said, wrapping it around a tree, wrapping your Corvette around the tree. Like I feel like the business is not as harmful or destructive on that sense where I just felt it was very with the drugs and alcohol and situations that we were exposed to and used to. I don't feel like it's there as much anymore.
Yeah, if it is, it's definitely well hidden. But I mean, you hear the stories of like this guy's got his video game system, and I think it's better. Nothing. Who was it? Always said like, nothing good happens after midnight. Well, back in our day, it did, but for the most part, I was lucky. I never got into the drugs.
Yeah, me neither.
Unfortunately, I missed the boat. Now it's sinking, so there's no point in holding on. I want to start doing drugs when I get like at the nursing home. I want to be the guy that draws straws. Well, it's time to feed the cooker down in cell block 3 of the nursing home. Oh, he's on heroin again. He's 85 years old. He's tried coke again. That's what I want to
know. That's the time to do it. And then they'll be like, "Oh, Bob's out in the hallway taking bumps.
He's naked again. Oh,
he's doing the flare. He's running the hallways naked."
No, I wouldn't be doing that. Well, maybe if I was on certain drugs, I don't know. I never did them, so I don't know.
There you go. It's too funny. So, preview us on what we can expect in episode 2 of Mr. McMahon.
So I'm going to snap. Wouldn't take much. I don't remember exactly, but I think it just goes in chronological order. Like, I don't remember the end of, was episode 1, did they start to talk about WrestleMania 1? Because it goes to that.
Yeah.
It just kind of goes from there. It's all kind of chronological. And then, of course, then you get into the steroid trial and all the other conundrums that Vince got involved in. So, and go back to that question about the PLEs. It's the same as every other aspect of wrestling. You throw something against the wall, you see what sticks. If it's working, it's working. If they don't think it's working, they'll change it.
Right.
Especially if talent comes in and go, hey, I want to wrestle every week and have a better chance of getting hurt. Okay, let's go back to 10 matches.
So how about I'll ask documentary first. Overall, since you've watched it all, did you overall like it, and did you overall think it was more positive than negative about Vince?
Yeah, I actually loved it. But I love the wrestling history. That's what I posted about, that I like or love wrestling history. And I just love how they started it. They went all the way back to the beginning, and a lot of archival footage and some stories on how certain things happen, pictures you never saw before.
What was the
so for the most part, I found it positive.
Okay. What was the biggest thing out of this that you might have learned that you think that you didn't know?
Well, that I've got 6 less hours of my life to live. I don't know. I just enjoyed it. I'm not one, but again, I don't watch anything to critique it. Like, I don't sit there and go, well, let me get the pen and paper out and go, well, they said this, but I didn't like it. Oh, this was good. I like that. That was good. I just watch it and enjoy it and take it for what it is. And if someone wants to ask me what I thought of it, I'll tell them the truth. And I thought it would like, you want to ask me what I thought of the movie The Iron Claw? I thought it sucked. So there.
You know what? I haven't even seen it yet.
Oh, save yourself the trouble.
I feel like I want to watch it, but then I also like I saw it all happen in real time. It's
Yeah,
like
when I saw the trailer for that movie, I thought this is going to be the greatest wrestling movie ever. And then when I saw the movie, I went, "Well, I'm an idiot because that wasn't happening." So
right.
I wanted to watch it based on the trailer because I thought it looked fantastic. And then when you see it, and it's just so screwed up and so much BS and stuff that never happened and ridiculousness and completely forgetting Chris Von Erich. That's like a slap in the face. The kid died because he loved the wrestling, but he killed himself because he couldn't be a wrestler.
Yeah.
And his life meant nothing to the producers or directors or whoever the idiots are that made that movie. And that's a slap in the face. The fact that Kevin Von Erich will sit there and say, well, yeah, they left your entire brother out. He could have been. They didn't have to be a big focal point, but he could have been sitting at the table. Could have been at least mentioned, And the director says, "Oh, there was just too much sadness. The audience couldn't hold more sadness." Well, here's the people who went to see that movie were people who knew about it. They're not going to be any more sad that Chris died because he died. Makes no sense. One more death's not going to go, "Oh, this movie's just too much. I can't watch it anymore." I mean, it's part of the story, for God's sake. I mean, if you do a story about John F. Kennedy, are you going to leave out the part where his head got blown off? I don't think so.
Nick Infante joins the party. He said Bob Cook had 14 matches in 1995 for WWF.
Well, that's embarrassing because I thought I had 15.
How about that?
I can tell you everybody I wrestled. Okay, I can't, but, And for the record, though, I let them all win. Just saying.
Even tag team with AC Connor, who would later be D'Lo Brown. Oh, nice.
Against Lex Luger and the British Bulldog, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Who, by the way, Lex was cool. Bulldog, not so much. Chew on that, people.
That's interesting.
Not really.
No, it is. Come on. Because you always, it's funny. I just heard some stuff about Bulldog recently about being a dick. And I always heard this stuff about Lex being a dick over the years.
But I knew Lex since he started, here in Florida in '86. He was always cool to me, so I got nothing bad to say about Lex. He was easy to work with. I worked with him in WCW. Even worked out with him a couple times on the road. He was always cool to me. So again, I got nothing. And if you see someone like Lex in his situation now, right, where he's in a wheelchair, he is like one of the most, I guess, what would you call, unbitter, the least bitter people you'd ever see an interview from. He won't talk bad about anybody. They try to bait him too. Like I've seen interviews where they try to get him to say bad stuff about Vince. He won't do it.
No.
Incredible. What do you call it? I'm drawing a blank. Incredible attitude, incredible outlook. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, I just literally, swear to God, saw this morning. I think it was on Twitter. Thank you, God. I woke up, have another beautiful day. And I was like, wow, good for him.
Now there's people in Florida not saying that right now, but hey, we'll let that.
There you go.
Thank you, God. I woke up and wait, my house is gone. That's a poor joke because a lot of my friends got affected. So
Johnny wants to know, hey, Cooker, do you have any old 8x10s? He'd love to add you to his collection.
No, I don't. But if I did, I'd burn them because I'd look at the picture and go, "Holy crap! I was in horrible shape." Throw it out, just like that.
No. Which back in your days, which did you prefer working for, WCW or WWF?
Man, I loved it all. I don't, I have no. I mean, WWF was, or E, if you want to be specific, was more laid back than WCW. WCW was more like. You go in the office and you talk to one guy and they tell you to do something. You get off walking down the hall and they tell you to do something else. Just before you went in the ring, they'd tell you to do something else. When you came back, someone would say, "Why did you do this?" And I never got in trouble. Don't get me wrong. There's just a little more confusion. Whereas WWF was just more professionally run, a little more laid back.
Oh, it seems like that. is the reason why they are the company they are today, and they still are, the number one game in town.
Yeah. But I always just had fun everywhere. I used wrestling, and I've said this 100 times. I used my time in wrestling as an escape from the real world. When I left my house, got in the car, I didn't have marital problems. I didn't have financial problems. My kid didn't talk back to me. I was on the road and I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Of course, back then you didn't have a cell phone. Like, you tell your wife you're going to be home on Friday. She didn't call you after you left. Like nowadays, if you left, they go, you say, I'm going to be home on Friday. And they call you 2 minutes later. When are you going to be home? I said Friday, But back then they didn't have cell phones. Thank God. We'd be in trouble.
You just sparked the thing. When was this? I think it was 2001. I was promoting a show in Philly, and I had Nature Boy Buddy Landell.
I wrestled him.
And he came in for the weekend, and he spent the weekend at my house. And he Buddy being Buddy, was typical Buddy, went MIA for a while. His wife was calling my house all freaking weekend long looking for him, and I was like scared to answer the phone. And then when he came back to my house, so was he. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I only wrestled him once, but he was cool.
Yeah. He had his demons, but he was deep down a beautiful person.
We all do. I'm gonna go get me another Mountain Dew when I'm done here, so I got my demon.
There you go. Get that dew. Do.
I don't have a lot of joy in life, but a Mountain Dew ice cold, oh, I love
it. So I didn't know this. Diamond Dallas Page, he's working with Lex.
Is he?
Johnny.
Probably with his yoga and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dallas is another one. He's a great guy, man. And I'd say that as well. As anybody that thinks Diamond or Dallas didn't deserve his spot is crazy.
Yeah.
He used to tape all of his matches with a camcorder, and he'd go back and watch them and critique himself. Like I had a match at the Wrestle War 92 pay-per-view. It was the opening match, was a dark match. It was me and a guy named Firebreaker Chip Curtis Thompson against Dallas and Tommy Rich.
Okay.
And Dallas taped the match, and we went back to his hotel room afterwards, me and Dallas and Raven, Scotty Flamingo back then. Not Scotty Flamingo, Scotty the Body.
Yeah, Scotty Flamingo.
Or Scotty Flamingo, I think, in WCW, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we went back to his hotel room, and Dallas or Diamond, what do you want to call him? DDP. That's a good one. I don't know his real name. But we went back and he critiqued it. We watched it, and he did this and that, and he did that all the time.
Huh. That's when I was going through my wrestling school days in the early 90s, the person who finished my training, who's down in Florida actually now, Jimmy Giannetti, not Marty, Jimmy, out of Tri-State Wrestling Alliance and early ECW. We would go and we would set up a camcorder at the wrestling school, and afterwards we would go back to his house or my house, and we would watch the tapes and dissect it and like figure out what you were doing wrong, and that was the way to learn.
Right. And I've seen guys say, I've never watched myself wrestle. Well, maybe that's why you still suck.
Come on.
I used to always watch my matches and see what I did wrong and what I could do better. Didn't ever help, but I did it.
Let me ask you this question, because I do this whole Ask Chubby thing where I have the fans asking questions.
Well, I do have a little extra weight on me.
Oh, I got it too, my friend. A question that I've seen this asked on these YouTube shoots too. Is the term jobber offensive?
I don't know if it's offensive. I don't like the term, and I don't like the term enhancement talent either. But again, just like Vince doesn't like the term pro wrestling, I have my hangups too. Barry Horowitz, who I've known forever, he hates the term jobber too. And that term's been around forever, but back in those days, they didn't say the jobber's dressed here, the jobber's dressed there. They didn't use that terminology. It was around, but you didn't hear it. Nobody called you that. And there was also, I like to clarify, like a lot of people say there was a pecking order, and at least from my own personal perspective, I never had to sit in a special room. You know what I mean? You could sit wherever I wanted. When I worked
Yeah.
for WWF, I always sat with Jerry Lawler and Paul Bearer because they entertained me. They were
Mm.
funny together. And in WCW, dress wherever I want. In the Terry Funk era, I always dressed with Terry. I mean, in dressing with the other guys, but I always dressed, sit next to Terry and listen to his stories. So it was
Sure.
never like, you guys got to dress here. You can't dress there. And in center stage in Atlanta, it was like 3 dressing rooms in the hallway. One, the middle, and the other. You could dress in anyone you want.
Hmm.
Now, you tended to dress with the people you traveled with because they were your friends, but you
Yeah.
could, there was no like, you stay out, you know what I mean? From my own perspective, I know others have different views, but maybe that's their view.
What's this? One of the guys Bob wrestled was Jinsei Shinzuke, who
Was
would
that the guy
later.
who had all like the fake tattoos on his body?
You know what? It must be. They said he later appeared in ECW in 1998.
I think he was a bald guy. I don't remember. I don't think that was his wrestling name, but it's the name on the screen.
Right. Charmaine's in the house. She's on episode 6 at the moment. You're way ahead of me. Bob saw it all.
Yeah, I stayed up all night and watched it.
That's what I thought. Paige is actually Diamond Dallas Page's real name.
Pete Falkenberg, wasn't that his name?
Yes, that's it.
I don't really know most of the guys' real names, and I always call people by their fake names or wrestling names. I didn't mean to use the word fake. I apologize. If you're offended out there, I'm sorry.
You know what's funny? Like so many guys, like you call them by their gimmick name, and then like years later, you stumble upon their real name, and it's funny because Stevie Richards. I went to wrestling school with him. He's Mike Manna, so was Mike. But then once he became Richards, like I still call him Richards. I don't even call him Stevie. I call him Richards. Like I was texting with him last week, and it's still always just Richards. I can't call him Mike no more. I don't call him Steve. I just call him Richards.
Yeah, I call all the people I know by their wrestling names. And
Yeah.
in WCW, I remember like the only 2 people I can remember that called each other by their real names was Sting and Luger. Sting would call him Larry, and Larry would call him Steve.
Steve, yeah.
More often than not. Those are the only 2 I can offhand remember. Everybody called everybody by their wrestling name.
How about the term ham and egger? Did you ever hear that?
Yeah, I've heard that from like Bobby Heenan, but he's not referring to ham and eggers as wrestlers. He refers to the fans as ham and eggers.
Right.
You know what term I like the best when it comes to that? Are you sitting down?
Let me stand up.
I like the term pro wrestler. That's my favorite term. You know why?
Wait, is that a really term?
Wrestler. Yeah, that's the term I like.
Huh.
When I went to the wrestling school, they didn't teach the guys that were going to become jobbers different ways to work. They were pro wrestlers. They just had a different position in the business.
There you go.
And I had times in my career where I got a push here and there, and I was a mass superstar for a company here in Florida called Here in Florida. Like I'm still in Florida. Let me click my heels. Wait a minute. Nah, see, I'm still here in Tennessee. But a company called Suncoast Pro Wrestling, and I feuded with the great Dean Malenko. I was the champion off and on, and we had 25, 35-minute matches, interviews, promos, fun. Daddy takes your wrestling ring away.
I don't know. This might be an awkward question to ask.
No, you can't have any of my Mountain
Dew. How much did they pay enhancement talent guys back in the day?
For like WCW?
Mm-hmm.
Got $150 is all.
Really?
Plus they paid for our rental cars and our hotel rooms and the gas for the rental cars. We always used to rent most often than not. Yeah. We used to rent Lincoln Town cars and for the most part, because why not?
Yeah, exactly.
But we were working all the time, like 3-4 times a week back then, and almost every week. And unless you're doing like independent shows, all I can say is, however I did it Maybe it was magic. I don't know. But I made enough to get by on without having to have one of those pesky real jobs.
So I was going to say, so I guess you did that full time and then worked indies on top of that.
Yeah. And and back in those days, well, they still do it today. Well, it's not so much but they would, like, if you're on an indie show, they would put, from WCW, Bob Cook or whatever.
Right.
I didn't tell them to do that. They just did it. Not that it would matter. Hey, I saw that guy lose 34 times last year. Let's go see him. It wasn't like it was going to help draw a crowd. But
well, I mean, honestly, when we became friends on Facebook, I became friends with you. It wasn't through the whole wrestling connection. It was the Evil Knievel thing. And when I put 2 and 2 together, I was like, holy shit, that's fucking Bob Cook from WCW. Like, it blew me away.
Yeah, and I love Evil. That's a fact.
I can't wait to get in and talk with you about that whole world.
There's 3 people in life that meant the world to me, that when I die, if by some chance there's really a heaven and you actually see the people you knew on Earth, the 3 people I want to see first is Evil Knievel, Terry Funk, and the Great Malenko.
Wow.
Wait a minute. I might be doing that later tonight. I got a headset that didn't work very well, and it's got a cord on it. You see that, folks?
See that? That's why.
Threatening suicide to go see the Great Malenko.
All right, we already answered that question. No. Do you think the term mark is offensive? That's an interesting one.
As a wrestler, no. Oh, you mean, is it offensive? It's not offensive to me because I'm not a mark.
Yeah, well.
No, I don't know. I don't. In the old days, they used that for everything, right? The carnival, sir, or the local
you
carnival.
Your mark on who to focus.
They still have marks. The people who think they can put the ball in the hole that's smaller than it looks from a mile away, and you sit there and keep paying your buck. They're looking for people like that, and I don't really know. Marks still do exist. The fact that there's an election coming up proves that there's marks that still exist, because one side thinks that Trump loves them and is going to save the world. The other side thinks that Harris loves them and is going to save the world. In reality, neither one gives a crap about any of this. Believe what you want, think what you will, but the reality is you're being fooled by the man. Oh, and the woman, if she gets lucky.
There you go.
But what do I know? I don't know nothing about politics. I'll be honest with you.
Hey, I don't either, but I know exactly what you said is the way I feel, and I have felt since a little child, and you can't tell me no difference.
If I knew more about politics, I'd have been a bigger success in wrestling. I'd use that card. But my problem with wrestling is that I was complacent. I just liked being there. I never caused drama. I showed up on time. I did what I was told, and I had fun after the shows. What more do you want?
Let's see. Jeremy mentions about the Heyman Egger comment. Only Bobby Heenan ever called him that, just like
what
you
I said. And he wasn't talking about sometimes he might be in a commentary talking about the wrestlers, but a lot of times it was the fans, the marks. Did I offend you?
Johnny wants to know. I think Nick is talking about Hushi, and then Nick says yes, Hakushi.
Yeah, they had a feud with Bret Hart. I remember. Back then too, that guy. But he was easy, nice guy.
Mark Russ wants to know, when is Bob getting back in the ring?
Mark Russ. I've known, you know who Mark Russ is? You don't know who he is, but I do. I've known Mark since I was a kid. They used to sell pictures at the Lee County Civic Center in Fort Myers, Florida. I used to go there as a kid, and I became friends with Mark and buy pictures with him. I bought pictures with Mark. No, I bought pictures from Mark. And the last time I actually wrestled, Mark was there. No, not the last time. The last time was this year. It was me and George South teamed up against Ricky Morton and Tommy Rich. Take that, people.
Nice.
And we both lost. So we lost. I can't believe I was shocked. We tried our best.
So you're still getting in the ring?
Once in a while, I embarrass myself, yes. But Mark, I've known Mark since the 70s, late 70s.
Wow.
Great guy. I'll be seeing you soon, Mark, because I'm coming home, baby.
Yeah, he don't like Tennessee. He's leaving us.
Well, I like Tennessee, but Tennessee don't like me. I'm just kidding. No, the reason I want to leave is because there's too many cliffs here to jump off, and that's not a good thing when you're Bob Cook. Too much temptation.
There's
I'm not a mountain climber, but I'm a cliff jumper.
a lot of wrestling pages that use the term ham and egger as a jobber today. Yeah.
What is this? There's a lot of wrestling pages. Oh, yeah, wrestling pages who are run by marks.
Yeah.
I despise wrestling fans who hate everything about wrestling. I don't watch football. I just told you that, right? A little while ago, about 37 minutes ago. I don't like football. But so I don't watch football. I don't watch anything I don't like. Call me crazy, but if I don't like something, I don't watch it. Wrestling fans watch it just to complain. Yeah. You could have the greatest show of all time, and there's some idiot that's going to go, that match went too long, or that was too short. Shouldn't have done that, should have done this. Shut up and enjoy the show.
There's the term with football, armchair quarterbacks, armchair coaches, or whatever. I think the armchair booker is a way bigger fucking term.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
I mean, if wrestling fans booked wrestling, it would have went out of business years ago.
Oh boy.
And I don't have a thing against, and I think most fans do that. They watch the show, they like it, or they don't like it, whatever, but they just go on to the next thing, right? You watch something, you go, oh, it's over, I'll watch something else. But it's the ones who are vocal, and that's what the internet does. It gives them a chance to become vocal and express their opinion. Here's a news flash. We don't care about your opinion. There's too much negativity where here's the reality. Again, back to those reality checks. Get your pen and paper and write it down. Nuclear war is coming. I believe that eventually, sooner than later, nuclear war is coming. Of all the things to be negative about professional wrestling, is not one of them.
So with WCW, they paid you $150. Did you get a hot dog?
No
hot. Charmaine says, "Wait, no hot dog, just $150."
No, we actually got catered meals. So there.
Oh.
Yeah, they catered all the meals. Sometimes they were better than others. Like center stage, you go back to center stage. The worst part about center stage was the catering. So if you knew you were working center stage, you'd get something before the show or after. Because it was, for whatever reason, I don't know, but of all the stops along the tour, center stage was the worst.
That's funny.
Oh, by the way, it makes me look like an idiot. So don't pretend you didn't hear me say I only made $150 a match. Oh, although one time I worked 4 times in one night.
Booyah. Yeah,
we got paid one time twice because of Wahoo McDaniel.
Ooh, you took a chop from Wahoo?
No, I didn't. But yeah, he was an agent in WCW when I was there, and we'd all got done working, and the main event was like Undertaker before he was Undertaker. Me and Mark against, I don't remember who, or maybe it was 2 other guys, but Mark was involved, and he had to go in the ring, and he was going to beat up, I think it was Sting or whoever. I don't remember because I'm old. But someone come up to all of us guys, the TV guys, those pesky jobbers, and said, hey, we need you guys to come out and break up the fight, which, meant go out and get beat up. But
yeah.
And I just happened to comment, are we going to get paid again? And the guy said no, because we'd all been dressed out. We'd always showered and put our clothes on and dressed, and they go, we need you to get dressed out again and go out and break up the fight. And so I said, are we going to get paid again? And the guy said no, and Wahoo was standing there, and he goes, Bo West, they're not. If they're getting back out there, they're getting paid again. And guess what? We got paid again. Thank you, Wahoo.
All right, Wahoo.
Yeah, he looked out for the guys.
That's awesome. Tim Mendeville, hello, Chubby and Bob Cook. And Bob, what you just said is the reason I'm not voting.
Bingo. I'm going to vote to sleep in on the day of the election and then watch it later that night and watch people melt down no matter who wins. And I hate, what I hate about politics brings out the absolute worst in people.
It really
there's people who have been friends for decades and don't talk just because some idiot decided to vote for some other idiot.
I have a friend of almost. I have a friend of almost five decades, and I'm not even political, and he don't fucking talk to me. I don't understand it.
Yeah, me neither. But it's like, why does one guy have the right or think it? I'm going to vote for Trump. Oh, and then the other side just, well, hey, he's an idiot. He's voting for Trump. And I'm voting for Harris. Oh, he's voting for... It's like so stupid to argue over something, people who don't care about you one way or the other.
Yeah.
We just had Florida. Florida just had devastating damage. That's going to take years to fix. Some of it will probably never be fixed, right? Entire towns washed away, homes washed away, millions of people without power. Do you know how fast they'll get money to Florida to help? nowhere near as fast as they'll find a check to fight a war in Ukraine.
We'll have WWE on Netflix, the whole network, before that happens.
Yeah, hopefully. And by the way, if I offend anybody with what I'm saying, it's not my fault. I have CTE.
It's the Mountain Dew talking.
It's the CT. Is that what they call that? CTE. Everybody blames CTE for everything. So I'm just rambling. I'm an idiot.
That's what I say. I took a lot of chair shots.
Matt Bourne dropped me on my neck 30 years ago, and it still hurts. Matt Bourne was a jerk like Bud Sawyer. Yeah, Matt Bourne was a jerk like Bud Sawyer and Van Vader. So I blame everything on Matt.
Who was stiffer, Matt Bourne or Van Vader?
I never wrestled Vader. Jody Hamilton made sure that I never wrestled Vader. And if you don't know who Jody Hamilton is, I know you know. You better know. I'm hanging up on you. But if you're a wrestling fan and you don't know who Jody Hamilton is, you're not a real wrestling fan. By the way, it was the assassin. So there you go. Cat's out of the bag. But he made sure I never had to work with Vader. His exact words, "Don't worry about it. I'm never going to have to make you work with that fat son of a bitch." And I thanked him. I saw Jody a few years ago at a fan fest in Tampa. And first thing I said to him was, "Jody, I just want to thank you again for not making me work with that jerk."
Is it like, it kind of sucks? Like, there's just guys like Vader that will have that stigma attached to them.
Well, it's their own fault. He hurt everybody.
Know. Yeah.
He hurt not only the TV guys, he hurt the stars. He hurt Steamboat. He hurt the Steiners. He hurt Sting. He hurt everybody. He didn't care about nothing, And he was constantly told to stop hurting people, and he kept doing it. I was there. Do you remember the guy Joe Thurman? Remember when Vader broke his back? I was the next match out. I got to wrestle. I was wrestling the Z-Man, who was like, awesome. Z-Man, Tom Zink. He was awesome. Great guy, great wrestler. So I was wrestling Tom, but Vader broke that guy's back, and Vader came back to the curtain. He sat down on the floor, and he was crying. And I was thinking, is he crying because he basically just crippled a guy? Or is he crying because he's finally going to lose that job that they kept telling him to stop hurting guys, or he's going to lose that job?
Wow.
I'm telling secrets I've told on every podcast I ever did.
Hey, that was a secret I didn't hear.
It's not a secret. It's common knowledge. Guy was a jerk. Mike Graham saved me from getting beat up by him one night.
Well, come on, tell the story.
Well, it's not that big a deal. It's like everybody was drinking, and I was coming back from the Waffle House in Atlanta. We all stayed at the Ramada, and Mike Graham and Vader were coming back from a bar, and I've known Mike forever, and he was always good to me. And I said, "Hey, how you guys doing?" And Mike's like, "Well, Vader just got us thrown out of a bar again for fighting." And I was drunk, and I was like, "Oh man, I wish I was there. I wish I was there. I'd like to fight." And Vader grabbed me by the shirt, and he threw me against the wall. And he goes, "You want to fight?" And Mike goes, Leon, he's Bob. He's one of the boys. Ooh, because Vader was drunk,
Oh, God. Wow. Let's see. Gotta love the keyboard bookers, laugh out loud. And I can't wait when a great booker, the real God, not Todd, but Joel Goodhart. Oh. Well,
I don't know nothing about him. So.
I'll give you a little tidbit, Johnny. It's 9:27 Central Time. The press release is going out in about 2 hours. And you're going to hear about Joel Goodhart and his new booker. Hint, hint. So stay tuned.
Pro wrestling lives.
There you go. Charmaine Smith, I can confirm I've lived in Florida in my whole life.
What's left of it?
And what is this emoji? What is that? Is that a fireball?
Looks like it. It's a Sheik. She's honoring the Sheik, the original Sheik. Which, by the way, I'm reading the book about the Sheik right now.
Was it you who put that up the other day, that this book is great?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I mean, I'm not a big reader, but I'm enjoying it. My kid gave it to me. I was like, well, let me check this out.
Did you ever work Abby?
Yes, a few times. He was awesome. Very easy, nice guy, super nice guy. He helped me, like last year he called me when I was going through some depression and stuff and kind of talked me off the ledge. And I thanked him at a fan fest I saw him at last year as well in person. That made me feel really good.
Nice.
But yeah, he was cool. I got to work with him, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. He was awesome. Never hurt me. Never ever hurt me. I even helped put his girdle on once in the dressing room. Kayfabe that. Can't believe I said that. Me and Terry Funk were doing it. Because I call it a girdle, but it was like a back brace.
Yeah.
And I come in the dressing room. I used to wear these Terry Funk, what I call Terry Funk boots.
Mm-hmm.
Terry gave me my first pair, and I walk in, and Abby's like, "Hey, Terry, Bob's wearing your boots." And he goes, "I gave those to that kid. He's a good kid." And so we helped put Abby's back brace on. Not girdle, back brace.
That's funny. Now, that's something that we wish we had video footage of.
Yeah. Yeah. The first time I met Abby, I don't know if you want to hear that story, but
yeah.
It was at the Jacksonville Coliseum in Jacksonville, Florida, and this is like in '87. And I'm sitting in the dressing room, and like you do, and Dusty's in there, and Bugsy McGraw, and Kevin Sullivan, all the real stars. I was just kind of hanging out, but I was there to wrestle. And Abby, everybody's talking and laughing. Abby came in the dressing room, and everything went quiet. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just, holy crap, what's going on? Because Dusty turns to Abby, and as a kid, all I ever saw with Dusty and Abby was like pictures of them in the magazines and on the cover of the magazine with blood all over their face. And even though you know the business, you think you understand the business.
Yeah.
You're still there in that moment. You're just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I thought they're going to tear each other apart, right? And they start walking towards each other. I swear the whole room's quiet. And I'm sitting there as a 12-year-old kid again. It was like, what's going to happen? They meet in the middle of the ring. They hug. Dusty kisses him on the cheek and says, "How you doing, baby?" I was just like, I can't. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Who was your very first match?
A guy named, I don't remember his full name. His first name was Will, and he wrestled under a mask as the Masked Terror, and I was a baby face, and it was a first match on my first match was the first match, and it was in Tampa, Florida at the Moose Lodge. The ring was set out. I'm sorry, I'm rocking back and forth. I'm Jesse Ventura all of a sudden. The ring was set up at outside of Moose Lodge by a lake, and everybody sat around in lawn chairs and whatever. And we got paid $20 on all the barbecue we could eat. But that was the only match I ever practiced. Me and the kid were at the Malenko school.
40 years later, people are working for $10 in a hot dog, so you were overpaid.
Yeah. But I in the first match, it was like probably a Saturday. And, but that was the only match I ever practiced. Him and I worked out at the school every chance we had or when classes were. And we went over the entire match from beginning to end. It was like a 10-minute match, circle around, lock up, head, over and over so we didn't mess up. And then the second match I got $50, and I was in a main event against the Malenkos with a guy named Lord Tom Laxton, who was Cactus Jack before Cactus Jack, which meant he did a lot of crazy stuff. That was my second match.
So your second match, you're in there with your teacher.
I say the Great Malenko. I meant the Malenkos, Dean and Joe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I actually had the Great Malenkos last match ever, which was cool. Yeah. It was a tag team match. Me and a girl or lady I've known forever. She's one of my best friends. Penelope Paradise was her wrestling gimmick name.
Okay.
And she was my manager when I was a Masked Superstar in Suncoast Wrestling. And we did an angle where the referee, Frankie Reyes, was Malenko's partner against Penelope and I. And Penelope worked with Frankie and whatever. But that was Malenko's last match. We lost. But it was an honor to be part of it. But at the same time, it's one of those double-edged swords. You're part of the Great Malenko's last match. You're honored, but at the end, I went in the dressing room, I sat down and cried because I knew I understood what it meant.
Yeah.
The end of an absolute era by someone who I love as much as anybody who ever set foot on the earth, the entire earth.
Do you feel like that was probably your most meaningful match of your career?
Definitely one of them. I mean, I don't know what's meaningful. They all meant something to a degree,
Yeah.
Like there's certain milestones, right? Like the first time I wrestled for Championship Wrestling from Florida in '86, and I got to home because they taped those Wednesday mornings in Tampa, and then they would air the show, the original airing on Saturday nights on WTOG channel 44 out of St. Pete. I remember these things. Somebody get me a drink, and go home and Gordon Soley called the match in my, first time ever Gordon Soley. Bob Cook. I was like, oh my God. That was a thrill.
Bob Cook with the suplex.
Yeah, and I remember showing my dad that. Again, he didn't like wrestling, but he thought that was awesome because he knew how much I liked wrestling. And he was like, man, son, I'm proud of you. So that made me feel good. But then he went and died. What kind of dad does that to a kid?
See that? You impressed him so much.
Yeah, it was a few years later, at least. 4 years later. Wasn't like he just died right off. Wasn't like Hulk Hogan where he wrestled Andre the Giant at 87 and then he died a few months later, according to Hulk. Not true, but
Did you ever work Hogan?
No, unfortunately, I would have loved to because I'm a big Hogan fan. I was a fan of Hogan since he burst on the scene in the 70s, and I've never even met him. It's always bothered me a little bit because I'd like to get a picture with him just so I can go, hey, look, he's in better shape than me and he's 71. Of course, it doesn't take much to do that. I mean, we got a 90-year-old next door who's in better shape than me.
I know you've worked Flair. How was that?
That was awesome. That's one where it wasn't a long match, but it was fun, and all these kids today like go out there and practice their matches and go over them for an hour or 2 hours in the dressing room for 5 minutes. And the Flair match was just standing at the curtain with him, and I'm like, Rick, what are we going to do? And he goes, just listen to me, Bob, and remember the figure 4. Boom, music hits. You're out there, and that's it.
Yeah, I was going to say, like when you're working somebody like Flair, do you even say anything? You know what's going to happen?
No, yeah, I mean, I didn't. A lot of the guys wouldn't really go over anything other than Brian Pillman. Brian loved to go over the entire match. You sit there with him for an hour long, and he'd tell you what he wanted to do. And I loved working with Brian. He was easy, nice guy, great guy. Great guy, beautiful guy. He's a great guy. He's a beautiful guy. But you had to remember all that stuff. And one time I was wrestling Brian, and I can remember he went to, because I'd sit there by myself after he told me what to do, and I'd just sit there and run it through my mind. Okay, this, that, And he whipped me off the ropes, and I forgot. I went blank. And I told him as he's whipping me, I said, I forgot the spot. And I could hear him as he's whipping me. He's going like, I don't remember what it was, but it's like, tackle, drop down, get it again. Whoa, and it came to me just like that, so he didn't screw up. But I was just, what the heck? But that was the only guy who'd like to do everything, go over everything.
Right.
But Flair was awesome. Easy, light as a feather. I think I went to the bar after. I know I went to the bar afterwards and like, see these marks on my chest? Yeah. Ric Flair did that.
As a matter of fact, Flair's still at the bar.
Yeah. But he was always cool to me, always. One time, again, I'm rambling again, but because I know we weren't here to talk about me, but back to the Jacksonville Coliseum, 1987. I was wrestling the legendary Steve Kern, one of my favorite people of all time. And we had a match, good match. Always fun working with Steve. When I came back to the dressing room, and Flair was standing, he goes, hey, good match, Bob. And rather than just saying, thank you, Mr. Flair, or thank you, Rick, whatever, I said, was it a little too slow? And he goes, I said it was a good match, which basically meant, Bob Cook, you overbearing, obnoxious, pig-faced bastard. I am the NWA World Heavyweight Champion who took the time out of my busy schedule of doing nothing at the moment, watched your match and said it was good. Shut up and accept it. So I just went, oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And walked away. Am I ranting? Was I mumbling on that one?
How about, I'm a person who, I get into the history of buildings and especially arenas and stuff like that. What was was there any arena or anything that you worked in that was real monumental to you?
Oh yeah, a lot of them. Just because as a kid, I used to, in Sarasota, Florida, there was an arena called, or still is, Robarts Arena. And I went there every month as a kid. So getting to work, that's the first time I was like, oh man, I'm in Robarts Arena and I'm not in the crowd,
Yeah,
I even got to win there. The rest of my friend Jerry Gray, we later went on to become the Mighty Yankees under Hoods and became the Florida Tag Team Champions. But I got to win and, got a big pop because I was the hometown guy. And my favorite arena though in Florida was a place called the Bayfront Center in St. Pete, which is no longer with us. Rest in peace. That's a place where Elvis played. Evil had been there in the 70s, even though I didn't know it at the time because I would have went. But that was one of my favorites because to me that was like Madison Square Garden of the South. It was kind of round.
Right.
About half the size, but the same kind of layout. But lots of those places in Florida, Jacksonville Coliseum and the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis.
Right.
Oh man, that place was awesome. That ring had an incredible sound.
Yeah, I just, as you said, the Mid-South Coliseum, like, I'm just like, because I know they haven't done nothing with that for years. I'm like, man, I just have this, like, weird obsession with arenas and stadiums and stuff.
Yeah, it's a shame. A lot of them aren't here anymore.
Yeah, it just, like, back in, because I'm originally from Philly, like, when they were getting rid of the Spectrum, like, I was like, why don't, it was weird because they were like, oh, here's our plan. We're going to knock down the Spectrum and build a hotel where the Spectrum stood, and then right next to it build this sports bar, and we're going to make a shopping district. And I'm like, why don't you, like, figure a way maybe to convert the Spectrum into a hotel and leave the building standing? But
Genius city leaders, and I'm that way when it comes to Evel Knievel. It's like the famous places that he jumped that are no longer here,
right.
But that's the progression of life.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. My cat's trying to come in here. Look, here he comes.
Hey, we got one of those behind me here.
Say hi to Bob. Yeah. All right, I'm reading. Any more comments before we wrap up for the night?
I've driven them away.
The Civic Arena is my favorite. Where's that at?
Every city in America.
Yeah.
Like I said, where I met Mark Ross, the Lee County Civic Center. They had some classic matches there: Harley versus Dusty, Andre the Giant, and Dusty against the Funk.
Did you ever work Dusty?
No, unfortunately, man, I would have loved to. As silly as it sounds, like I would have loved to take a bump off his elbow, the bionic elbow.
Right. Yeah.
I had Dustin Rhodes' very first match ever, and so I took a lot of his bionic elbows. But to be in there with Dusty would have been awesome. And Dustin was awesome too. Don't get me wrong, but it would have been cool to work with Dusty. But Dusty was always cool to me, by the way.
I think Dustin, he was like, for me, from the generations of the 90s on up, like that next generation wrestler, I think he was the one that really was the first one to me, like, gained respect.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I respect pretty much everybody, but yeah, he was cool, awesome to work with, easy, still a cool guy to me all these years later. I haven't seen him in a long time, but we interact every once in a while on Facebook, and nothing but respect for the man.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, all right, Bob, do you want people to know where to find you, or you want to?
Not unless they're giving me money. Other than that, okay. No. Lost in translation. Well, it doesn't matter. No one, I'm on Facebook. No one cares.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Not only can you talk wrestling, but Bob, but you can talk Evel Knievel, which is actually just as important or more important.
Technically, probably more important. I could talk about Evel all night long. So,
I got to do some. And you know what? It sucks because the plan was to do a 50th anniversary of the Canyon Jump show, but I've just been so busy. I didn't get a chance to pull it off. But I did one a few years. It might have been the 45th anniversary, and had a lot of, like, Evil's Crew on there, and I did some other shows. Had Evil's Crew, had Lathan on some shows, and
I know Lathan. He's a friend.
Yeah, had Robbie on a show. Had a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun hearing the stories about Evil. Some were absolutely hysterical.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Lathan, we wouldn't see the stuff we see today as far as the museum and all that. That's absolutely all Lathan. I mean, he had obviously help along the way, but he was the instrument that got that band together.
Yeah.
He's the guy who got most of my big stuff that I have in the museum. He's the one who got it from me.
I
Great
mean,
guy.
it was needed. I'm so grateful for what Lathan has done for that, um, for the whole Evil Knievel, you know, history and community.
I wanted to be out there at the canyon this year for that big celebration, but couldn't do it. I'm
Yeah.
hoping to be at the grand opening of the museum once it moves to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
That's the plan. But then again, there's that heart attack thing coming.
Come
I
on,
don't
man.
know when or where, but eventually I'm sure. Come on.
No. Keep drinking the Mountain Dews. It's going to happen. That's why you switch to red wine.
No.
Hey, after I had my heart attacks, my doctors recommended red wine. So
I haven't been to a doctor since the 1990s. I like to live in denial, so I will continue to drink Mountain Dew, even if they tell me not to.
you know what they say:
And not
deny,
Diet Mountain
deny,
Dew either.
deny.
No
Yeah.
diet, no Mountain Dew Zero, the real stuff or nothing. And none of those offshoot bastardations of the Dew either. Baja Blast, that's not Mountain Dew. That's just using the name, and I boycott it.
Well, now they make Mountain Dew with alcohol in it.
I tried that. I swear to God, because I've never been a person. I don't like alcohol. I mean, I've drank a few times, but I don't like the taste of alcohol. So when
Okay.
they had that, I watched all the reviews. Is it going to taste like real Dew? Because if it is, I'm in paradise. Because who wants to be sober? I mean, look around. But it's like if they're going to drop the nukes, give me time to get some vodka and orange juice because I don't want to leave this planet sober. But I tried that Mountain Dew. It don't taste nothing like real Mountain Dew. I was like, foiled again.
Huh.
I was
Interesting.
so
Yeah,
hoping it
I haven't
tasted
tried it
just
yet.
like Mountain Dew. Because if it tasted just like Mountain Dew, I'd be like, "What do you mean you're gonna let me go? Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna be here all night, Chubby. You're not going nowhere, buddy. Yeah, I'd be so drunk right now."
For the record, Mountain Dew was always my favorite soda too.
Yeah, and I drink it because I like it. I mean, I'm addicted to it to a degree, but I can go without it. But why should I?
Exactly.
When you have very few things in life you enjoy, don't eliminate the one thing you do.
Especially since it doesn't seem to be hurting you. So
Well, I'm sure it is. I don't like again. I haven't been to a doctor since the 1990s. I like to
you
live
don't
in denial.
know.
Right.
Yeah.
Like when I wake up from a diabetic coma in the hospital, like, how long have I been here? 6 years. Well, then I know I did something wrong. But until then, that's the only way to get me to the hospital.
they're going to hold the Mountain Dew in front of you to encourage you to go.
Well, that might help too.
Well, Bob, thanks for hanging out with me for a couple hours tonight. Thanks for sharing your input, your thoughts, your revelations, your secrets that were already told before, but you told them to us, and your love of Mountain Dew.
Yeah, and we didn't tackle the Vince thing as much as we should have, but here's a thought, a food for thought. Let the situation with Vince play out.
And he's back.
Let the situation play out. Don't go by a meme. Don't go by one side of the story. Wait till it plays out. Then make up your mind. People who just say, oh, this person said that and he did this and he did that. You don't know nothing. A lot of people will take the dislike for someone and manifest it into complete hatred. Like, well, Vince is scum because that guy said he was scum. Or like people who hate Hulk Hogan because they're jealous that he's still got money and they've spent all theirs. It's the same mentality.
All right. So, all right. Well, I'll list my complaint with Vince while I have you. Here's my feelings on Vince McMahon. I've never met Vince, never had any dealings or experience with him. I feel Vince is an absolute wrestling and promoting genius, a ballsy motherfucker who did amazing things for the wrestling business. But I knew from one of my earliest days in wrestling school the ugly, seedy things that were going on. And from that point, I was kind of like, wait a minute. So this is going on, and I'm being warned about this. Obviously, Vince knows what's going on in his company. and he's not doing anything about it. And then little things start trickling out in the early 90s about these situations, and they get hushed. And then again, more things trickle out through the years and through the decades and get hushed. And then the last couple years, these situations are starting to come out again. It's just like all these people knew these situations were happening and nobody did anything. And I feel a lot of people sold their soul to the devil or their body parts, hoping to hoping for greener pastures, and ended up nowhere near the pastures they expected, and ended up on a very bad situation. So
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. If you're not there, you don't know, you don't understand. Some people will turn a blind eye to the paycheck. I don't know. I got to be honest. To be
no,
honest,
I mean
you,
that's it.
I could check my Facebook friends right now and see how many I have and how many I have after I say this, but I can be bought. Okay, pay me enough money, and I can look right at you and not see what you're doing. Got me? Because Evil always told me that money buys happiness, and guess what? He's right.
Interesting.
Evil used to say, I've been rich and I've been poor. Rich is a lot better. I'd rather live rich than die rich. Boom.
I always think I always said I was going to do it, but maybe it's time to do it. I'm going to take Evil's letter he would send to his bill collectors. And,
that's a good one. Yeah.
That's the best.
I'm going to put your name in a hat, and if you keep harassing me, I'm going to take your name out of the hat. Yeah, that's a great one.
On that note, Bob, thank you so much. We're going to have you back again. I want to have you. When's the next PLE? I think it's next weekend.
Saturday, or yeah,
next Saturday. 5th. Yeah.
Bad blood.
Maybe we'll do a recap if you're around. We'll hang out and dissect some matches.
Well, remember that heart attack thing, or
just bring the two with you.
The cord, the headset. Oh, and we got cliffs right on.
Just bring some Mountain Dew with you. We'll be all good.
Oops,
see that? Look, it was working great for the longest time.
I get it.
Yeah.
Telling you, it's the Russians. It's tampering.
There you go.
Either that or the Hamas people. Someone send me money so I can fight it.
Hey, on that note, have a great night. If I see Mark Marrow, I'm going to throw your name out at him.
I got nothing. But you know who intervened on that was Dallas Page when we had a little falling out. Dallas messaged me and he goes, I hate seeing you guys go at it like this. I want you guys to make up. And it was all over the Chris Benoit thing. So.
Oh, really?
Because when the Benoit thing happened, Mark went on national TV and ragged on the business and told all kinds of ridiculous stories. And I was like, Mark, man, take it down a notch, if you hate the business that much, Oh, now I'm opening up that worm again. What a dummy. Edit that out. Edit that part out.
Edit it out as we're live.
But again, I had no ill will against Mark, so.
No, hey, who knows if
I was invited by his brother to come visit him if I'm ever in Orlando, his brother Joel. So. Well, now I probably disinvited myself, but disinvited.
You never know.
Yeah. Life goes on until it doesn't.
There you go. Until then, do the do. I will talk to you soon. And hopefully next weekend we'll hook up again and we'll talk more wrestling and PLE. I'll tell you what, I don't even know what the matches are for the show. I only know the 2 matches, and I'm sold. I love the fact that they're doing Hell in a Cell with Punk and McIntyre. And I love the whole Rhea versus Liv with Dom hanging suspended in a cage.
The old school shark cage.
How great is that?
Let me just say this. Although I'm not in Florida, I'll leave you with this. As the legendary Gordon Soley would say every Saturday night on Championship Wrestling from Florida, so long from the Sunshine State.
Boom. Take care, Bob. We're out.
Thank you.